The night of our 20th wedding anniversary should have been a celebration, but it unveiled a truth that shattered my world. I had planned a romantic evening, Darren's favorite meal, followed by the gift I'd been secretly saving for. But when I reached into his jacket pocket to retrieve the theater tickets, my fingers brushed against an odd rectangular shape. Pulling it out, my heart stopped as I stared at the receipt for a diamond necklace from Cedars Jewelers. Darren walked in just as I was unfolding the damning piece of paper. "What's that?" he asked casually. I could barely let the words tumble out. "When were you going to give me this?" He glanced over and paled. "Oh, that! It's not for you." The room started spinning as the implication struck me. I stumbled over to the couch, my hands shaking. You bought another woman jewelry?" Darren sighed and grabbed himself a beer from the fridge like it was just another day. "Listen, Marissa, I haven't been happy for a long time. I've met someone else, someone who appreciates and desires me." My ears started ringing as he droned on about this mystery woman. I could barely process the venomous words pouring out of his mouth. "Her name is Lena, and we're in love. I want a divorce so we can stop living a lie." I stared at him, unseeing. "After 20 years? Just like that?" He shrugged nonchalantly. "I'm sorry, but it's over. God, we'll have to split assets and figure out what's best for Ethan, of course. I'm seeing a lawyer first thing tomorrow." "So that's it?" I screamed, the betrayal and humiliation burning through me. The vase of fresh roses I'd bought for our anniversary went crashing against the wall, stemming briefly splattering petals over the hardwood. "You just throw away 20 years without even trying to fix things?" Darren didn't even flinch. A detached look on his face as he studied his beer bottle. "There's nothing to fix, Marissa. We're just delaying the inevitable by staying in this loveless marriage." I wanted to claw his eyes out, rage and disbelief coursing through me. Who was this stranger casually destroying everything we had built? Then a new fear gripped me, cold and hard in the pit of my stomach. "What about Ethan?" I whispered, trying to regain some composure. "You can't take him from me." "Don't worry, we'll negotiate that too. To be honest, he'll probably want to live with me and Lena once he gets used to the idea." White-hot anger flashed through me again at the thought of some homewrecker trying to replace me as Ethan's mother. Screw being civil. This was war. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. Darren thought he could just waltz out and discard me when it suited him. But I wouldn't go down without a vicious fight. I would use every ounce of strength to protect my son and make Darren pay for throwing away our sacred vows. He was about to learn you don't terrorize a wife and mother without suffering the consequences. The night dragged on in a blur of tears and anger after Darren's bombshell confession. I barely slept, my mind spinning over his callous dismissal of our marriage vows. How could the man I loved discard me so easily for some young tart from the office? In the cold light of morning, I got my first look at the woman he'd risked everything for, Lena. Just 28 years old, with a vapid social media presence full of pouty selfies, she looked barely older than the college girls I counseled with fake breasts and hair extensions. I felt ill thinking about Darren's wandering hands on her plastic body. Over bland cereal that scratched my raw throat, I asked Ethan if he'd suspected anything. My son just shook his head, eyes vacant from the trauma of seeing his parents' marriage implode. I longed to protect him, but Darren had other ideas. "We need to talk about living situations," he said in an infuriatingly calm voice when I refused to answer his calls. "I think it's best if Ethan stays with me during the separation." Like hell, I spat, unable to mask my fury at his audacity. "You really think parading your office mattress in front of our son is appropriate?" "Don't start with the insults, Marissa. This is hard enough." My blood boiled at his feigned concern. "You threw our family away the moment you stuck your dick in that bimbo." "Mom," Ethan gasped, clearly uncomfortable witnessing our toxic exchange. "That's enough," Darren said sternly. "This hostility isn't good for Ethan. We'll discuss custody arrangements through our lawyers." "You mean your lawyers," I shot back. "Which shark did you hire to take my son away from me?" He sighed in exasperation. "Always the drama queen." Those 4 words detonated my anger into blinding fury. "Drama queen? I spent 20 years caring for our home and child while you chased money and strange." I hurled the closest object at hand, a ceramic chicken objet d'art that Darren's mother had gifted us. It shattered against the wall next to his head. "Mom, stop!" Ethan cried out. But I was seeing red, unleashing 2 decades of resentment. "You never appreciated any of my sacrifices. Well, if you think I'm going down without scorched earth retribution, you're dumber than you look." Darren flinched as shrapnel pelted his designer shirt, finally seeing the menace in my eyes. Without a word, he strode out, letting the front door slam behind him. I collapsed onto the sofa, with his chest heaving, as Ethan stared at me warily. I was consumed by a new protective rage. Darren wanted to cast me and my son aside like rubbish? Well, he was in for a brutal awakening. I may have lost my husband and the life I'd known, but I would claw my way through hell to ensure Darren's ultimate demise, both professionally and personally. He wanted to see drama? I would become his worst nightmare, stopping at nothing to destroy him. Ethan didn't deserve to see this war. But I had no other choice now. The man I'd loved had become a soulless enemy, and by God, he would reap the agonizing consequences. I needed a plan. Some way to fight back against Darren's legal barracudas and regain control over my life. But I couldn't take him on alone. He held all the financial power after 2 decades of me deferring to his breadwinner status. That's when Grant, my older brother, stepped in as my first line of defense. "You can't let that bastard bully you out of everything," he growled after I spilled the whole sordid tale over a bottle of Cabernet at his place. We were kindred hot-headed spirits, a fact our parents lamented over frequently while we were young hotheads. "Easy for you to say," I sniffed, wiping away angry tears. "You're not the one being discarded like trash after sacrificing my best years." Grant slammed his fist on the table, those flashing eyes of emerald fury I knew so well. "That soon-to-be broke-dick loser husband of yours is out of his damn mind if he thinks he can treat you this way. We'll bury the son of a bitch in legal fees and public shame if we have to." I felt a surge of gratitude for having at least one person utterly on my side through this nightmare. I want to take him for everything he's worth. Every broke-dick penny. "That's my girl." Grant cracked a rare grin, that mischievous sparkle back in his eyes like when we used to egg houses as teens. "You let your big brother take the wheel on this one, sis. Old Darren doesn't know what he's in for." I returned a shaky smile back, feeling a flicker of hope despite the chaos. There would be hell to pay. I would make certain of that. No one abandons me without reaping the whirlwind. The next day, I got my second formidable ally when Sylvia, my best friend since freshman year of college, arrived on my doorstep. "I can't believe that scumbag is trying to put you out on the street," she fumed, pulling me into a rib-cracking bear hug. Despite her ferocity, just having Sylvia's presence calmed me. She'd been my rock during every major life event the past 20 years. And now, true to form, she had my back during this worst betrayal of all. "He won't get away with it," I assured her, feeling a surge of new resolve. "Grant and I have started making preparations." Sylvia's eyes narrowed to slits. "You're going to take that cheating sack down, aren't you?" I nodded, surprised at how little guilt I felt. The man I loved was gone, replaced by a selfish stranger. Mother was untamed. It was time to fight for my surrender. "Well, you're going to need compromat, all the ammo you can get on that scumbag," Sylvia said. "All business now. Financials, dirtbag stuff, anything we can use." She rubbed her hands together with relish. "I'm just the legal pit bull you need." She shot me a savage grin. "Darren wants to tango? Well, this bitch has a mean tango." Despite the coming war, I couldn't stop the startled laugh that burst from my lips. With Sylvia and Grant at my side, I suddenly had formidable reinforcements. Let the games begin. Over the next few weeks, we formed a united front, my own personal team of overlords. Sylvia brought her expertise as a top family attorney, while Grant worked his accounting contacts for intel on Darren's money trail. Slowly, I felt the shreds of my confidence and thirst for vengeance re-emerging. Darren could play the victim all he wanted, blaming me for our martial breakdown. But he was about to learn, in horrific detail, the catastrophic consequences of underestimating a betrayed woman. I would orchestrate his downfall through his own hubris and greed, those twin curses that caused his undoing. By the time I was through, Darren would not only be a broken man, but Ethan would finally see his father for the desiccated soul he truly was. At last, my son and I would gain the freedom to flourish without his black market toxicity. With Sylvia's dogged legal assistance, I started gathering ammunition for the war ahead. Bank statements, emails, text messages, anything that could expose Darren's rotten core and shady business dealings. It turned out Mr. Entrepreneurial Real Estate Man had been cutting quite a few unscrupulous corners over the years. Fraudulent property valuations, kickbacks from mortgage brokers, even under-the-table payoffs to building inspectors. Sylvia cackled with delight as she pored over the evidence. "This worm is going down harder than a drunk prom date," she assured me one evening over takeout curry. "No judge will let him keep the kids once they see what a scumbag deadbeat he is." I felt a grim satisfaction watching the box of incriminating files grow. Darren's affair had turned my whole existence upside down. Well, now I would return the favor by systematically dismantling his precious empire, beginning with his ruined professional reputation. But that night, the true scope of Darren's deceit took an even more sickening turn when Grant called in a panic. "Oh my God, Riss, you're not going to believe the filth I just uncovered about that little bimbo, Lena." My heart pounded as he recounted her long, calculated history of targeting wealthy married men across multiple states. Social media profiles revealed a sinister pattern of love-bombing men, getting them to leave their wives and families, then milking them for cash and gifts until she got bored and discarded them. Her trail of ruined homes and empty bank accounts spanned over a decade. "She's a professional homewrecker," I muttered numbly after hearing it all. The full depths of her predation on my family sank in, stoking the flames of hatred even higher. The scheming little monster. "Precisely," Grant growled, so full of disgust I could picture his face flushing crimson. "And that's not even the worst of it. Old pal from high school who works Vice sent over some police reports." As he laid out the grisly new details, my blood turned to ice in my veins. Arrests for solicitation, allegations of theft, stalking, and drug charges. Lena was far more nefarious than some harmless gold-digging floozy. "Oh my God," I gasped once he finished, my head spinning. "How could Darren be taken in by her?" "That's what she does, Riss," Grant said grimly. "She preys on weak, desperate losers going through a midlife crisis. That snake had her sights set on the next big score." I was shaking with revulsion, picturing Lena sinking her claws into my unwitting husband. For all my anger at Darren, he didn't deserve to be manipulated and discarded by a sociopathic criminal. I felt bile rise in my throat. Nobody plays with my family without suffering the ultimate consequences. "We need to end this now," I said, a cold finality in my voice that surprised even me. "Darren has severely underestimated who he's dealing with." There was a low chuckle on the other end. "Never did like having to learn a lesson twice, did he?" I allowed the faintest hint of a grim smile, despite my fury. "No, he never was very bright when it came to reality checks." "Well then," Grant concluded darkly, "I'd say it's high time we issue the corrective before he ruins the rest of all our lives." For the rest of that night, exhaustion eluded me as my mind whirled with the new intelligence about Lena's true evil nature. Clearly, she represented a threat far more dangerous than just a passing midlife fling. She was a calculated, immoral predator, diligently working her way through every wealthy idiot foolish enough to stray. Well, I would happily become her undoing. No one destroys my family's lives without paying a butcher's ransom in return. The time had come to use every tool in my arsenal to cut out the fetid, infected limbs dragging us down. I would stop at nothing until Darren and his degenerate whore had their worlds cremated to ashes at their feet. Only then, after being forged in the flames of their arousal selfishness, would both of them finally understand the devastation they had wrought. Vengeance may be unsavory, but sometimes it's the only deterrent for such unconscionable acts. Over the next few weeks, Darren seemed to relish flaunting his new life of sin with Lena in my face. Brazen selfies and check-ins at fancy restaurants taunted me on social media. My stomach turned watching the sordid displays of Darren draping his arms around the woman who had detonated my world. But I maintained an eerie calm, secure in the knowledge that their ego-fueled bliss was willfully oblivious to the coming storm. "Look at them," Darren sneered one afternoon, the first time Lena joined one of our interim custody meetings. He shoved his phone across the table, a photo of the smirking bimbo posing in lingerie splayed across the screen. Isn't she incredible? I refused to look, keeping my eyes locked on his with a withering stare. Yes, she certainly seems accomplished at her profession. Lena's heavily made-up face twisted in confusion as she opened her obliviously overlined lips. My what? Let's stay focused, Sylvia interrupted with a bemused look. She was taking undisguised glee in refereeing the humiliation that lay ahead for the gruesome twosome. Back at the house, Ethan remained sullen and withdrawn, keeping to his room and barely looking at Darren during their court-mandated visits. Infuriatingly, the affair degenerate seemed more concerned with showing off his new plaything than reconnecting with his only child. You've barely spoken to your son in weeks, I said coolly after enduring yet another long dinner disrupted by Lena's shrill, inane chatter. Darren waved a dismissive hand, eyes glassy from too much wine. He's dealing with the divorce in his own way. You know teenagers? I know betrayed kids too, I said evenly, locking eyes with the hollow shells where his soul used to reside. At least with you out of the picture, mine can finally heal from the trauma of having such a wretched, absent father. Rage flickered across Darren's face then as he realized the depths of my disgust. You smug bitch. What gives you the right to shut me out? My lips curled into a sneer of pure contempt. Still playing the victim card? That ship has sailed, asshole. Time to face the consequences of your depraved choices. Is that a threat? Lena snarled, outraged that anyone dared defy her latest married meal ticket. A promise, I hissed back with undisguised loathing. You brazen hussies think you can just take whatever families and homes you want by opening your fish holes? Time to learn some manners. Mom, please, stop. Ethan's stricken voice cut through the venom, but I was too transfixed on administering consequences to the poisonous snakes infesting our lives. You're going to regret this disrespect, Darren said in a low, menacing tone that might have cowed me years ago. I'll take everything if you force me to. I let out a bark of laughter, unable to contain my derision. For weeks, I'd allowed their circus of depravity to play out, getting them overconfident and complacent. But now their sneering, self-entitled arrogance would seal their doom. By all means, take your best shot, I said with a shrug. Nothing would make me happier than legally eviscerating you both before burning the remains. Darren's eyes widened slightly, as if finally glimpsing the full extent of what he had unleashed. I didn't bother to hide my vindictive smirk. Let him marinate in dread. It was but a faint taste of the hell to come. Sylvia slid a folder of paperwork across the table then, still grinning. We've prepared a preliminary asset division agreement for your consideration. As the sniveling fools pawed through the legalese, my gaze drifted to Ethan. His young face was etched with misery and resignation that no child should have to bear. It cemented my resolve. Ridding our lives of Darren and Lena's toxic effects was non-negotiable. They could dismiss me as some deranged, overly dramatic shrew for now, but soon their overconfident arrogance would be shattered. Underestimating me, a mother pushed to the brink, would be the first in a catastrophic series of errors, and I would luxuriate in every anguished second of their undoing. With each passing week, Darren and Lena's arrogance reached offensive new heights. Public displays of affection and taunting posts filled their social media accounts, rubbing my face in their debauched bliss. Look at this, Lena crowed one afternoon, sidling up to shove her phone in my face. It showed Darren beaming as the gold-digging whore modeled a brand-new diamond tennis bracelet he'd gifted her. Your sleazeball ex-husband has such incredible taste, doesn't he? I fixed her with a look of pure revulsion. Yes, he always did have discriminating taste in overpriced trash. Lena's heavy makeup couldn't mask the flash of rage across her vapid features. You're just a bitter, jealous old hag hanging on to the past. A cruel smile slowly spread across my lips. And you're a two-bit prostitute hanging on to whatever married scumbag will leak his billfold. Isn't that right, dear? With a shriek of incoherent fury, Lena raised her bejeweled hand to strike me. But Darren quickly grabbed her wrist, an admonishing look on his smug face. Now, ladies, let's not let our claws out in front of the boy. He shot a pointed glance toward Ethan, who was frozen in shock and embarrassment at the unseemly scene. The poor kid was being forced to witness the dregs of depravity thanks to his father's insatiable lust. "See what a degenerate bitch you raised your son around all these years?" Lena hissed through painted lips, struggling against Darren's grip. "I'll show him what a real woman is like once the divorce is final." White-hot rage lanced through me at the thought of this scorpion mother trying to slither her way into my child's life. Ethan was paying enough for his dad's mistakes without adding Lena's poison into the equation. "Over my dead body," I snarled, rising to my feet with clenched fists. "I'll bury you in litigation for the rest of your wasted life before I let you blight my son." Darren's face hardened and he stepped between us. "You're the one who made this divorce inevitable through your constant contempt and disrespect. Don't act so above it all. Your neurotic bitterness is what's destroying this family." "Enough." The shout came not from me, but from Ethan. We all turned in stunned silence as my son gestured wildly, anguish and rage etched across his young face. "I can't take this anymore. You two are the most selfish human beings on the planet. Do you have any idea what you're putting me through?" Darren made a move toward him. "Now, son, you just need to." "Shut up!" Ethan roared, angrier than I'd ever seen. He pointed a shaking finger at Lena, who gaped like an overstuffed fish. "And you? You're nothing more than a cheap hooker trying to buy a new family." He whirled back towards his father, wild-eyed. "And you? Trading in your real family for this whore. I don't even recognize you anymore. I'm so disgusted, so ashamed of what you've become." Tears streaked down Ethan's face then, and any remaining anger melted into heartbreak. He fled from the room, unable to endure another moment of toxicity from the monsters who destroyed our family. For several long moments, an uneasy silence hung over the shattered remains of the ugly scene. I stared at Darren with a mixture of hatred and pity. This deluded fool truly had no idea the calamity he'd invited by chasing his reckless affair. Well, it was long past time I pried those scales from his willfully blind eyes. "You think this is disrespect?" I said in a low, dangerous tone. I leaned across the table, glaring straight through him. "You have no idea the world of torment I'm about to unleash on you both. Consider this a mere overture to the main event." Lena opened her mouth, possibly to shriek more indignant protests, but I silenced her with a single frigid look. "Starting tomorrow, the real games begin," I said with steel in my voice. "And by the time this is over, I'll have burned you straight through the core of your rotten, worthless souls." With that vow hanging in the air, I turned and walked out, back ramrod straight. The unraveling had officially begun. Darren and his mistress were about to reap the consequences of their despicable actions. No more Mrs. Nice Girl. From here on out, the only priority was mutually assured destruction. True to my promise, the shockwaves of my retaliation plan began rippling out the very next day. Thanks to Sylvia's tireless work, a deluge of legal motions and allegations hit Darren from every angle imaginable. First came the notices of civil lawsuits, painting him as a fraudulent real estate developer, enriching himself through graft and racketeering. A barrage of paperwork detailed inflated home valuations, kickbacks from loan officers, even bribes paid to municipal inspectors. His shady business practices, once camouflaged behind legitimate transactions, were now laid bare in painstaking detail. Next, the criminal charges started trickling in. Money laundering, tax evasion, even allegations of investment fund misappropriation. Within a matter of days, what few legitimate business dealings Darren had were frozen as authorities began seizing assets and combing through financials. The once swaggering businessman who had so casually devastated my life was now scrambling just to keep his head above water as the ocean waves crashed over him. Of course, the vulture Lena was first to cut and run once Darren's looming legal catastrophe came into focus. One sunny afternoon, she was standing on my doorstep, raccoon eyes leaking mascara, designer luggage in tow. "You did this," she wailed, blotchy face contorted with anguish. "You crazy bitch destroyed everything." I blinked at her with mocking innocence. "I'm sorry. I don't follow. My husband abandoned me, so I took reasonable recourse to protect my financial interests, completely within my legal rights." "My rights," Lena raged, stamping her foot. "I have rights, too. All of Darren's money and assets are mine now. We were starting a new life." A cruel smile twisted my lips then. "Ah, Did the little gold digger's cash cow run dry? Too bad your talons couldn't sink in deep enough before we pried them out. With a scream of bilious fury, Lena hurled her oversized designer tote at me, spilling its contents across the doorstep in a jumbled mess. Then she spun on her studded heel and fled, weeping incoherently all the while. I watched her broken, despondent figure retreat down the driveway. Good riddance to that tank of tainted money and soul poison. Darren showed up later that evening, haggard and sweat-stained. He barged past me, red-faced and shaking, and started sweeping the discarded items on the porch into a box. "So is this what you wanted?" he panted, shooting me a hate-filled look. "I'm ruined, facing jail time. Is that enough justice for you?" I stared at him in cold silence, unmoved by his tantrum. For weeks, I had diligently gathered evidence of his corruption, providing a veritable roadmap for the feds to utterly dismantle his nefarious practices. And now he was reaping his deserved misery. "This is merely a down payment," I said in an arctic tone. "For every second of anguish you put me and Ethan through, I intend to excind from your flesh until you understand the meaning of the word suffering." Darren's expression flickered with a hint of worry then as my words drove home. For the first time, he seemed to truly comprehend the depthless determination behind my pursuit of vengeance. You won't get away with this," he sputtered. "I'll fight this in court. I'll take you for everything." I let out a short bark of laughter. "Oh, Darren, you sweet deluded fool, this is merely the opening salvo of consequences for your unspeakable betrayal and immorality. The body blows are still yet to come." I took a threatening step closer, eyes blazing with fury. "The utter ruination of your body, spirit, and financial empire is now an inevitability, and once you are gasping among the cinders of your miserable existence, you may yet learn an iota of the devastation your actions have caused." Darren recoiled from me then like a scalded dog, the box of Lena's hastily abandoned belongings clutched to his chest like a shield. For the briefest of moments, a flash of terror crossed his face before the mask of indignant defiance slipped back into place. "You're insane," he managed weakly. "A spiteful monster." A cruel smile twisted my lips as I reached to slam the door in his face. "No, my dear, simply a harbinger of your well-deserved descent into hell." The clang of the door closing echoed through the foyer as I walked away without a second glance. The shockwaves were still radiating outward, dismantling every facet of Darren's wretched existence, piece by agonizing piece. And I would be front and center, savoring every shriek of torment, until his debt was paid in full. Only then would my own soul finally find peace. The weeks and months that followed were a legal grind, but the outcome was never in doubt. Not after I'd thoroughly dismantled every pillar of Darren's formerly comfortable existence. Arraignments, depositions, bankruptcy filings, I stalked the courthouses with grim determination, ensuring each chink in his armor was pried wider until he was left defenseless. Sylvia barely had to enter their room before judges and arbiters began sharpening their gavels for the kill. Through it all, the costly legal bombardment drained Darren's remaining assets down to husks. I watched with unconcealed delight as his expensive suits turned to rags and his prized sports cars were seized by the bank. His palatial home, the scene of countless fake idyllic evenings, was lost to foreclosure. In the end, the man who had so brazenly discarded my unwavering devotion was left with nothing but the ashes of his ruined life. Lena, of course, was long gone, just another invisible statistic among the trail of discarded married men in her wake. Darren tried negotiating, begging for mercy, even brazenly attempting to guilt me by throwing Ethan in my face. But it was far too late for that. He had detonated our sacred family unit. The consequences of his betrayal were a riptide that would sweep away every rotten thing he'd ever cherished. On the day of his final sentencing, I felt zero pity watching the husk of the man I'd once loved shuffle into the courthouse, a ghastly specter of despair in ill-fitting second-hand clothes. Greed, ego, and lust had finally caught up to him in the form of a 7-year sentence for fraud, embezzlement, and tax evasion. "Well, here we are," he said hoarsely, head hung low in defeat. "The end of the road you promised." I said nothing, staring at him coolly as Sylvia loudly shuffled some papers beside me. "Aren't you going to gloat?" Darren's voice was barely above a croak. "Give me one final kick while I'm down." I regarded him for a long moment before speaking. Gloating would imply I took pleasure in reducing you to this, I said calmly. The truth is, I feel nothing but revulsion at the depths of your depravity. A tremor passed across Darren's ruined face then. How could you ever let it come to this? We had 20 years of family. We had nothing. My voice was ice cold. You made the choice to sacrifice everything for selfish, temporary desire and indulgence. You cast away 2 decades of my loyalty and commitment for what? A handful of mediocre orgasms and trinkets for that disposable whore? I jabbed a finger towards him, rage resurging for one final crest. You did this to yourself, Darren. My job was simply ensuring you understood the consequences of your depraved choices. Darren opened his mouth, perhaps to grovel or plead yet again. But a booming voice interrupted from the front of the courtroom. Darren Michael Landis, you've been found guilty by this court of 32 counts of fraud and financial misdealing, as well as tax evasion. The people hereby sentence you to 84 months imprisonment in the state correctional system, with additional financial restitutions and penalties to follow. This court is adjourned. The gavel cracked down like a thunderclap, sealing the end of Darren's miserable chapter. As bailiffs moved in to escort the handcuffed wretch of a man away, he turned towards me with sunken, wretched eyes. I hope, one day, you find peace. With that, he was removed through the towering oak doors, transported off to start his hard new life of imprisonment and misery. And although his words should have vindicated me, I felt nothing but hollowness inside. The man who vowed eternal love and family was forever buried. What was left was simply karma's receipt, the remorseless cost of his transgressions come due. I watched through the courtroom windows as the armored transport pulled away, Darren becoming just another inmate, numbered drowning in the atrophy of regret and shattered potential. It would be a long road of empty cells, indignity, and iron bars ahead. But that path was of his own making. My role had simply been the messenger of his consequences. I may have swung the final hammer, but he was the one who willfully triggered his own destruction from the start. And as I stepped out into the brisk air, ready to rejoin Ethan and return to rebuilding our new lives, I felt unburdened. There would be no more poison, manipulation, or moral bankruptcy dictated by Darren's black hole of selfishness. We were free now, and I would ensure we stayed that way for the rest of our days.
I always knew my sister's engagement party would be the death of me, but I never expected it to end with me being accused of sleeping with her fiancé in front of 200 guests. My name is Sawyer, and I've spent 28 years being Caroline's little sister. You know the type, the golden child who excels at everything while you're just there. Tonight was supposed to be her moment again, and I was determined to fade into the background like always. The Grand Plaza Hotel's ballrooms sparkled with champagne flutes and fake smiles. I adjusted my emerald dress, the one Caroline picked out because it wouldn't overshadow her white designer gown, and tried to blend in with the potted plants. There's my favorite wallflower. Blaze appeared beside me, his familiar grin offering temporary relief. You look like you're having about as much fun as a root canal. That obvious? I sipped my champagne. I'm trying to perfect my invisibility act. Good luck with that. Your mother's been telling everyone how her baby is still single while Caroline landed the perfect man. He rolled his eyes. Speaking of Prince Charming, Dylan was working the room like a politician, his perfectly styled hair and $1,000 suit screaming old money. He caught my eye and winked. I quickly looked away, my stomach churning. God, I need air, I muttered, heading for the terrace. Blaze followed, concern etched on his face. Saw, what's wrong? You've been off all night. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Another message from Dylan. I'd been getting them for weeks, each one more inappropriate than the last. I deleted it without reading, just like all the others. Nothing's wrong. I lied. Just family stuff. Ladies, my mother's voice cut through the night air. Caroline's about to give her speech. Get inside now. We shuffled back in as Caroline took center stage, radiant in white. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight, she began, her voice carrying across the room, especially my beautiful sister Sawyer. My chest tightened. This wasn't in the script. My sister, who's always been there for me. Caroline's voice cracked. Who I trusted completely. She turned to face me, tears streaming down her face. How could you sleep with him? The room went silent. 200 pairs of eyes locked onto me. What? I stammered. Caroline, I saw the messages, she screamed. On his phone, all those late-night texts, the pictures. Caroline, please. Dylan stepped forward, playing the concerned fiancé perfectly. Let's discuss this privately. No, she pulled away from him. I want everyone to know what kind of sister she is. Rosalie, Caroline's best friend, rushed to her side. Care, honey, let's go somewhere quiet. I stood frozen as whispers erupted around me. My mother's face had turned to stone. Blaze gripped my arm, keeping me upright as my world imploded. I never slept with him, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. Caroline, you have to believe me. Show them your phone then, Rosalie challenged, her eyes glinting with something I couldn't quite place. Show everyone the messages. Yes, show us, Caroline demanded. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone. I deleted them all. He wouldn't stop sending them, but I never responded. Not once. How convenient, someone muttered in the crowd. Caroline, I stepped toward my sister, but she backed away. You know me. I would never. I thought I knew you, she spat. I guess I was wrong. The room spun as Caroline stormed out, Rosalie close behind. Dylan gave me one last look. Was that a smirk? Before following them. Well, my mother said, her voice arctic. I suppose the party's over. As guests began filtering out, Blaze pulled me aside. What really happened? I took a shaky breath. Remember when you said I've been off lately? It's because of Dylan. He's been messaging me for weeks, getting more aggressive each time. I kept deleting them because I didn't want to hurt Caroline, but I pulled out an envelope from my clutch. I also kept screenshots, just in case. In case of what? I watched as Rosalie hurried after my sister, her designer heels clicking against the marble floor. Something about her eagerness to fuel the drama didn't sit right. In case exactly this happened, I said quietly. And now I think I know why. The ballroom emptied around us, leaving behind half-empty champagne glasses and shattered family ties. But as I gripped the envelope containing proof of Dylan's true nature, one thing became crystal clear. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. You need to see this now, I said, pounding on Caroline's apartment door. The hallway was eerily quiet at midnight, but I knew she was home. Her car was in its usual spot, and I'd seen her bedroom light on. Go away. Her voice was thick with tears. Care, please. I have proof. I pressed my forehead against the door. I'm not leaving until you let me show you. The lock clicked, and Caroline appeared, mascara streaked across her face. She'd changed into sweatpants but still wore her engagement party jewelry, a painful reminder of the evening's disaster. 5 minutes, she said coldly. Then you leave. I followed her inside, clutching the envelope like a lifeline. The apartment was a mess. Flowers torn apart, photos face down, an empty wine bottle on the coffee table. Where's Rosalie? I asked, noticing her best friend's absence. She went to get more wine. Caroline collapsed onto the couch. Someone should be enjoying my engagement party. I sat beside her, keeping distance between us. Remember when we were kids and I broke Mom's favorite vase? You took the blame because you knew she'd go easier on you. What's your point? My point is, I've never forgotten that, or any other time you've had my back. I pulled out my phone, which is why I would never betray you like this. I opened my screenshots folder and handed her the phone. These started 3 months ago. At first they were casual, asking about your favorite things, claiming he wanted to surprise you. Then they got different. Caroline's hands trembled as she scrolled. Her face paled with each message. I can't stop thinking about you. She read aloud. Caroline doesn't understand me like you do. We should meet somewhere private. She looked up, eyes wide. You never responded. Not once, I confirmed. I blocked him twice, but he kept using new numbers. I saved everything because something felt wrong, like he was setting me up. But why would he? The door opened, and Rosalie bustled in with 2 bottles of wine. She froze when she saw me. What is she doing here? Rosalie's voice was sharp. Showing me some interesting messages, Caroline said quietly. You wouldn't know anything about those, would you, Rose? Rosalie's perfectly manicured hand tightened around the wine bottle. Care, honey, you're upset. Don't let her manipulate you. Funny choice of words, I said, pulling more papers from my envelope. especially considering these. I spread out printed screenshots of conversations between Dylan and Rosalie. Weeks of planning, coordinating when to send messages, discussing how to make Caroline doubt me. "Where did you get those?" Rosalie whispered. "Blaze works in cybersecurity," I said. "Amazing what you can recover from a cloud backup, even after deletion. Want to explain why you're helping Dylan set me up?" Caroline stood, wine forgotten. "Rose, tell me this isn't real." Rosalie's facade cracked. "He promised. It wasn't supposed to." She took a shaky breath. "You don't understand. Dylan and I—" "How long?" Caroline's voice was deadly quiet. 6 months, Rosalie whispered. "He said he'd leave you for me, but he needed a reason that wouldn't hurt his reputation. When he noticed how jealous you get about Sawyer—" I caught Caroline as her knees buckled. Together, we sank onto the couch while Rosalie stood awkwardly, still clutching her wine bottles like shields. "Get out," Caroline said. "Care, please." "Get out!" Caroline hurled a throw pillow at her former best friend. Rosalie fled, leaving the apartment door wide open behind her. For a long moment, we sat in silence. Then Caroline turned to me, fresh tears falling. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I should have known you'd never—" "Hey!" I pulled her into a hug. "You're not the one who needs to apologize. I humiliated you in front of everyone." She pulled back, wiping her eyes. "God, Mom probably thinks—" "Mom always thinks the worst of me anyway." I shrugged. "But that's not important right now. What matters is what we're going to do about this." Caroline's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" I picked up one of the screenshots. "Well, we have proof that your fiancé and best friend conspired to humiliate both of us. They tried to destroy our relationship to cover up their affair." A small smile played at my lips. "Question is, how do we want to return the favor?" For the first time that night, Caroline smiled back, a dangerous glint in her eye that I recognized from our childhood pranking days. "Tell me more," she said. As I began outlining my thoughts, I realized something had shifted. For the first time in our lives, Caroline wasn't the star and I wasn't the shadow. We were equals, united against a common enemy. And heaven help anyone who tried to come between sisters out for revenge. "Check your deleted messages folder," I said, watching Caroline scroll through her phone. We'd moved to her kitchen table, surrounded by coffee cups and revenge plans. Dylan might have gotten sloppy. I never even knew there was a deleted folder. Caroline's fingers trembled as she navigated through her settings. "Oh my God." "What?" "There are dozens of messages, from both of them." She looked up, face pale. "They were deleting them from my phone remotely using some app." I pulled my chair closer. "Show me." The messages painted a sickening picture. While Dylan was sending me inappropriate texts, he'd been carrying on a full-blown affair with Rosalie. They'd even used Caroline's own apartment when she was at work. "That's why she always offered to water my plants," Caroline whispered. I gave her a key because I trusted her. "Keep reading." Caroline's gasp echoed through the kitchen. They were planning to announce their engagement next month, at my parents' anniversary party. She slammed the phone down. "He was going to dump me in front of our entire family. And blame it all on me," I added. "The jealous little sister who ruined everything. No one would question it." "Mom would have disowned you." "Pretty sure she already has." I took a sip of coffee. "But that's not important right now. What matters is that we have everything we need." Caroline's phone buzzed. Dylan's name flashed on the screen. "Perfect timing," I said. "Answer it, on speaker." Caroline's hand shook as she hit the button. "Hello?" "Baby, please." Dylan's voice oozed concern. "Let me explain. Your sister's been throwing herself at me for months. I didn't want to hurt you by telling you—" "Save it," Caroline snapped. "I've seen the messages, the real ones." A pause. "What messages?" "The ones between you and Rosalie, the ones you deleted from my phone." Caroline's voice grew stronger. "The ones about your little plan." "Caroline, you're upset. You're not thinking clearly." "Actually, I'm thinking very clearly." She met my eyes across the table. "Clear enough to know that if you don't meet me at Cafe Luna tomorrow at noon, every single screenshot goes to your father. I wonder how the board of directors would feel about their CEO's son planning to humiliate his fiancé." Another pause, longer this time. "You're bluffing." I leaned toward the phone. "Hi, Dylan. Remember all those messages you sent me? the ones I never responded to. Turns out they're pretty damning when paired with your conversations with Rosalie, especially the parts about using me as your scapegoat. Sawyer. Noon tomorrow. Caroline interrupted. Bring Rosalie, don't be late. She hung up before he could respond. For a moment, we sat in silence. That felt good, she finally said. Just wait until tomorrow. I pulled out my laptop. Now, about those security cameras in Cafe Luna. What about them? Let's just say Blaze owes me a favor, and he's very good at his job. Caroline's eyes lit up with understanding. You want to record the confrontation? Better. I typed rapidly, pulling up blueprints of the cafe. I want to broadcast it, live. To who? Remember that group chat Mom has with all her society friends? The one she added us to, but we never use? I grinned. Turns out Dylan's mom is in it, along with half the country club. Caroline matched my grin. And the board members' wives. Exactly. I closed the laptop. But first we need to make a few calls, starting with that wedding planner who's been blowing up your phone. Amanda, why? Because she's also the event coordinator for your parents' anniversary party. The one where Dylan planned to humiliate you? I raised an eyebrow. I think she deserves a heads up about the change in entertainment. Caroline pulled out her phone again, determination replacing grief in her eyes. What else? We need to call the jewelry store first thing tomorrow. That engagement ring needs to be returned before Dylan can get his hands on it. Already done. Caroline twisted the ring off her finger. I'm meeting them at 10 a.m. Perfect. I stood stretching. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be interesting. Caroline caught my arm as I headed for the door. Sawyer, thank you for not giving up on me even when I didn't believe you. That's what sisters are for. I hugged her tight. Besides, no one messes with the Townsend girls. No one, she agreed. As I drove home, my phone lit up with a message from Blaze. Cameras are set, audio too. Whatever you're planning, it better be good. I smiled in the darkness. Good didn't begin to cover what we had in store for tomorrow. Dylan and Rosalie thought they could play us against each other. They were about to learn exactly how wrong they were. Cafe Luna buzzed with its usual lunch crowd, but the tension at our corner table could have cut glass. Caroline sat beside me, elegant in a black dress that screamed, "Funeral for my relationship." Blaze lounged at the counter, pretending to work on his laptop while actually managing our live feed. They're late, Caroline muttered, checking her phone. They'll come. I adjusted my water glass, making sure it wouldn't block the hidden camera. Too much at stake not to. Right on cue, Dylan strode in, Rosalie trailing behind him. He'd worn his power suit, the one he used for board meetings. Rosalie looked like she hadn't slept, her designer outfit wrinkled and her makeup slightly smudged. Caroline, darling, Dylan started, pulling out a chair. Sit down and shut up, Caroline said pleasantly. Several nearby diners glanced over. Perfect. There's no need for drama. Dylan lowered his voice. We can discuss this privately. Like you discussed things privately in my apartment? Caroline's voice carried just enough to draw more attention. While I was at work? Rosalie sank into her chair, face burning. Care, please. Don't call me that. Caroline pulled out her phone. Only my friends call me that. You know, friends who don't sleep with my fiancé. This is ridiculous. Dylan straightened his tie. Whatever you think you have. I slid my tablet across the table. We have everything. Every message, every plan, every detail about how you were going to blame me for your affair and humiliate Caroline at her parents' anniversary party. Those messages could be faked, Dylan scoffed, but his face had paled. True, I nodded. But the security footage from Caroline's building isn't faked. Neither are the hotel receipts, or the messages you sent me. I leaned forward. Want to see them all? The board members' wives are watching right now. Live. Dylan's head snapped up, finally noticing Blaze in his laptop. His composure cracked. You wouldn't dare. Already did. Caroline smiled sweetly. Wave to your mother, Dylan. She just joined the stream. Rosalie burst into tears. I'm so sorry. He said he loved me. He promised we'd be together. Save it, I cut in. We saw your messages too. This was your idea, wasn't it? The plan to blame me? Rosalie glanced at Dylan, who was frantically checking his phone. Yes, I knew Caroline was always sensitive about you getting attention. It seemed perfect. Perfect? Caroline's voice shook. I've known you since college. You were my maid of honor. And you had everything, Rosalie snapped. The perfect job, the perfect fiancé, the perfect life. I was just your shadow, always the backup plan. How's it feel? I asked quietly. Being someone's shadow? The irony wasn't lost on Caroline. She reached for my hand under the table. The ring, she said to Dylan. It's already back at the jeweler's, along with evidence of how you used company funds to pay for your little rendezvous. Dylan's face went from pale to gray. You can't prove... Check your email, I suggested. The board should be receiving their copies right about now. His phone buzzed, then buzzed again, and again. You've ruined me, he whispered. No. Caroline stood, her voice clear and strong. You ruined yourself, and you tried to ruin my relationship with my sister in the process. I never meant, Rosalie started. To get caught, I finished. Funny how that works. Dylan grabbed Rosalie's arm. We're leaving. This isn't over. Actually, it is, Blaze called from the counter. The stream just hit 10,000 viewers, including, according to these comments, your father and the entire board. Oh, and Rosalie, Caroline added, your resignation letter from the firm has already been accepted. Amazing how quickly they act when they discover you've been sharing confidential client information with your lover. Rosalie crumpled, mascara streaming down her face. Dylan practically dragged her toward the door, leaving behind his untouched water and what remained of his dignity. The cafe erupted in applause. Someone shouted, "Girl power," from the back. Well, Blaze joined us, closing his laptop. That was better than Netflix. Caroline laughed, a real laugh, maybe her first in days. I can't believe we actually did it. Believe it, I grinned, though Mom's probably having a stroke right now. Let her, Caroline said firmly. For once, I don't care what anyone thinks. You were right all along, and I should have trusted you. Water under the bridge, I waved down a waiter. Now I think this calls for champagne. To Karma, Caroline raised her water glass. To sisters, I corrected. Blaze's phone chimed. Guys, the video's going viral. You might want to prepare for some interesting family dinners. Caroline and I looked at each other and burst out laughing. Let them talk. We'd shown them all exactly what happens when you try to come between sisters. And something told me no one would dare try again. The aftermath hit like a tidal wave. By evening, our phones wouldn't stop buzzing with notifications, calls, and messages. Caroline and I retreated to my apartment where we sat cross-legged on my living room floor, sharing takeout and reading reactions. Listen to this one. Caroline held up her phone. Best karma video ever. The look on his face when they mentioned the board meeting. She scrolled further. It's got 2 million views already. Great, I mumbled around a mouthful of pad thai. Mom's gonna love that. Right on cue, my doorbell rang. We froze, chopsticks midair. Speaking of... Caroline grimaced. I opened the door to find our mother, perfectly coiffed despite the late hour, clutching her designer handbag like a shield. Well, she said, sweeping past me, I suppose I should be grateful I found out about this from the video rather than the country club gossip circle. Hello to you too, Mom. I closed the door. Would you like some pad thai? What I'd like, she perched on my sofa, is an explanation. Do you two have any idea what you've done? Caroline stood, shoulders back. Yes, actually. We exposed a cheater and a liar before he could humiliate me at your anniversary party. By humiliating him first? Creating a social media spectacle? No, I joined my sister. By telling the truth. Something Dylan and Rosalie should have tried. Mom's facade cracked slightly. Rosalie, too. But she was like a daughter to me. Yeah, well, Caroline's voice broke. She was like a sister to me, and that didn't stop her from sleeping with my fiancé in my own apartment. Mom's expression softened. She patted the sofa beside her. Sit, both of you. We complied, feeling like kids again. I received some interesting calls today, Mom continued, from the wives of several board members. They're all quite impressed with how you handled things. They are? I blinked. Apparently you're being hailed as some sort of, what did Margaret call it? Sister's goals? Mom shuddered delicately at the modern phrase. The point is, you protected each other, though your methods were rather dramatic. That was my idea, I admitted. The public exposure. No, Caroline interrupted. It was our idea. We did it together. Mom studied us for a long moment. You know, When you were little, all I wanted was for you to be close. But somewhere along the way, she sighed. Perhaps I contributed to the distance between you. Mom, I started. Let me finish. She straightened her skirt. Sawyer, I may have been unfair to you over the years, always comparing you to Caroline. May have been? Caroline scoffed. Caroline, Mom's voice sharpened. You're not innocent either. You've taken advantage of that favoritism. We sat in stunned silence. Our mother had never been this direct about family dynamics. The video of your confrontation made me realize something, she continued. You're strongest when you're together, and I'm proud of you both. You're proud of us causing a social media scandal? I couldn't help asking. I'm proud of you standing up for what's right. Mom actually smiled, though next time, perhaps consider a more private venue. Caroline laughed. No promises. Now, Mom stood, smoothing her dress. About the anniversary party next week. We don't have to go, Caroline said quickly. After all this drama. Of course you're going, Mom cut her off. In fact, I'm counting on it. Several guests have specifically asked if you'll be there. Apparently they're hoping for an encore performance. I choked on my water. Mom! What? If my daughters are going to be internet sensations, I might as well embrace it. She headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Sawyer, wear that emerald dress again. It suits you. After she left, Caroline and I stared at each other in disbelief. Did our mother just approve of our revenge plot? I asked. I think she did. Caroline grabbed her phone. And speaking of the anniversary party, have you seen Dylan's latest post? I leaned over to look. Dylan had posted a formal apology, claiming temporary insanity and begging for professional forgiveness. Damage control, I snorted. Too little, too late. Way too late, Caroline agreed. But you know what this means? What? He's desperate, which means he might try something at the anniversary party. Her eyes gleamed. Want to plan one more performance? I grabbed my laptop. Call Blaze. If Dylan wants an encore, let's give him one he'll never forget. As we began plotting, I realized something had fundamentally shifted. Not just between Caroline and me, but in how we saw ourselves. We weren't the golden child in the shadow anymore. We were simply sisters, united and unstoppable. And anyone who thought our cafe showdown was impressive hadn't seen anything yet. The country club ballroom glittered with 30 years of anniversary celebrations. Mom had outdone herself, crystal chandeliers, ice sculptures, and enough champagne to float a yacht. But Caroline and I were focused on the security feed playing on my phone. There, Caroline pointed. Dylan just arrived, and he's not alone. Sure enough, Rosalie slipped in through the side entrance moments after him. They were trying to be subtle, but the furtive glances gave them away. Right on schedule, I texted Blaze, who was monitoring the club's security system from his car outside. Start recording. I can't believe they actually came, Caroline whispered, accepting a champagne flute from a passing waiter. Of course they did. Dylan's father is on the board with Dad. Missing this party would be career suicide. Speaking of careers, Caroline nodded toward the entrance. Look who else showed up. Amanda, the wedding planner, strutted in wearing a dress that screamed revenge. She'd been furious about losing Caroline's commission, and even more furious when she discovered Dylan had been hitting on her assistant. Perfect, I grinned. Everyone's here. Ready? Caroline squared her shoulders. Born ready. We split up, working the room separately. I caught snippets of conversation as I moved through the crowd, mostly about our viral video with a healthy dose of speculation about tonight's events. Ladies and gentlemen, Dad's voice boomed through the speakers. If I could have your attention, that was my cue. I slipped behind the makeshift stage where the band was setting up, giving Blaze the signal through my phone. The lights dimmed slightly as Dad continued his anniversary speech. Mom beamed beside him, but her eyes kept darting to where Caroline stood near the dessert table. She knew something was coming. And now, Dad wrapped up, I believe my daughters have prepared a special presentation. Caroline joined me on stage as the giant screen behind us flickered to life. Confused murmurs rippled through the crowd when security camera footage appeared, showing Dylan and Rosalie entering the party separately. What is this? Dylan stood up, his face reddening. This, Caroline spoke into the microphone, is what a desperate man looks like. The screen split to show multiple angles of Dylan and Rosalie's arrival, along with timestamps from the past hour. Then it switched to footage from earlier that day, them meeting in a hotel lobby, planning their entrance. "Turn it off," Dylan demanded, starting toward the stage. "But wait, there's more." I took the microphone. "Let's see what else our friend Dylan's been up to since our little cafe chat." The screen filled with screenshots. Dylan messaging other women, including Amanda's assistant. Messages to his father claiming Caroline was unstable. Emails to board members trying to spin the situation. You see, Caroline addressed the stunned crowd. Dylan thought he could salvage his reputation by painting us as crazy, vindictive women. Which might have worked, I added, if he hadn't used his company email for everything. Rosalie burst into tears and ran for the exit. Dylan stood frozen, watching his career implode in real time as board members and their wives whispered and pointed. "Oh, and Dad?" Caroline smiled sweetly at Dylan's father. "You might want to audit those expense reports more carefully. We found some interesting charges from hotels, jewelry stores, all billed to the company account." Dylan's father rose slowly, his face thunderous. "My office first thing Monday," he growled at his son. "This is harassment," Dylan shouted, but his voice cracked. "I'll sue." "Go ahead," I challenged. "Discovery would be fascinating." The room erupted in chaos as Dylan stormed out, his father close behind. Several board members followed, phones already out. "Well," Mom appeared beside us as we left the stage. "That was certainly more dramatic than the string quartet I suggested." "Sorry, Mom," Caroline started. "Don't be." Mom sipped her champagne. "Margaret just told me it was the most entertaining anniversary party she's ever attended." She paused, though perhaps we should skip the video presentation at Christmas. The party shifted into celebration mode, with several guests stopping to congratulate us on our performance. Amanda caught my eye from across the room and raised her glass in approval. "Think we went too far?" Caroline asked quietly as we watched Dylan's mother make a hasty exit. "He was going to destroy your reputation and my relationship with our family," I reminded her. "He got what he deserved." "True." She linked her arm through mine. "Know what else is true?" "What?" "We make a pretty good team." Blaze joined us, laptop under his arm. "Hate to interrupt the sister moment, but you might want to see this. The security footage just leaked online." "What?" Caroline grabbed his computer. "How?" "Apparently someone in IT has a grudge against Dylan. Something about him getting his sister fired last year?" I couldn't help laughing. Karma really is a full circle thing, isn't it? As the party swirled around us, I realized we'd done more than expose Dylan and Rosalie. We'd exposed our own strength, not as rivals, not as golden child and shadow, but as sisters who had each other's backs. And that was worth all the viral videos in the world. Monday morning brought the fallout we've been waiting for. Caroline and I met for coffee at our usual spot, phones buzzing with updates. "Dylan's been suspended pending investigation." Caroline read from her screen. "The board is launching a full audit." "That's not all." I showed her my phone. "Rosalie's been blacklisted from every major PR firm in the city. Apparently, sleeping with clients' fiancés is bad for business." The bell above the cafe door chimed. We looked up to see Amanda rushing in, her face flushed with excitement. "You're not going to believe this." She slid into our booth without invitation. "Dylan just tried to book my services again." "What?" Caroline nearly spilled her latte. "For what?" "His wedding to Rosalie." Amanda's grin was wicked. Apparently they're trying to save face by claiming it was true love all along. "You said no, right?" I asked. "Better." Amanda pulled out her tablet. "I recorded the whole consultation. Wait till you hear his sob story." The video showed Dylan, looking considerably less polished than usual, sitting in Amanda's office. "It's all been a terrible misunderstanding," Video Dylan pleaded. "If we could just show everyone it was real love, not some tawdry affair." "By booking the same venues I reserved for Caroline?" Amanda's voice was acid sweet. "Using the same company credit card you're being investigated for misusing?" "I can explain." "Save it for the board meeting." Amanda's hand appeared, showing him the door. "I hear they're very interested in your explanations lately." Caroline slow clapped as the video ended. "Amanda, you're officially my hero." "Please," Amanda waved her hand. "After what he did to my assistant, this is just the beginning." My phone buzzed again, a message from Blaze. "Speaking of beginnings, guess who just got promoted to head of cybersecurity?" "No way." Caroline peered at my screen. "All because he helped expose the company's security vulnerabilities?" "Apparently, Dylan's father was impressed by his initiative in identifying potential threats. I laughed, though I doubt this was what he had in mind. The cafe door chimed again. This time, Rosalie walked in. She froze when she saw us, her designer outfit replaced by yoga pants and a messy bun. "I'll handle this." Caroline stood before I could stop her. We watched as she approached Rosalie, who looked ready to bolt. But instead of the confrontation we expected, Caroline simply handed her a card. "What was that about?" I asked when she returned. "Just giving her the number of my therapist." Caroline shrugged. "Someone that desperate for attention clearly needs help." "That's surprisingly mature of you." "Well," she stirred her coffee, "holding on to anger only hurts me. Besides, karma's doing a pretty good job on its own." Amanda's phone pinged. "Speaking of karma, Dylan's father just called. Wants to know if I've heard from his son. Apparently he missed the board meeting this morning." "Missed it?" I frowned. That's not like him. Caroline's phone lit up with a news alert. She read it and burst out laughing. "What?" Amanda and I asked simultaneously. "Dylan was caught trying to leave the country last night, with company funds." Caroline could barely get the words out. Airport security stopped him because someone reported his credit cards as stolen. Someone? I raised an eyebrow at Blaze's contact photo on my phone. "The best part," Caroline continued, "Rosalie turned him in. She's cooperating with the investigation in exchange for immunity." "Hell hath no fury," Amanda mused. "Like a woman scorned," I suggested. "Like two sisters with a good plan and better tech support," Caroline corrected. My phone buzzed one final time. A message from Mom. "Lunch today? Your father wants to discuss making you both partners in the family business." Caroline read the message over my shoulder. "Both of us? Really?" "Why not?" I smiled. "We've proven we work well together." "That we do." She clinked her coffee cup against mine. "Though maybe we should stick to legal business strategies from now on." "Probably safer," Amanda agreed, "though less entertaining for the rest of us." As we laughed and shared more updates about Dylan's downfall, I realized something. The shadow I'd lived in for so long hadn't just lifted. It had transformed into a spotlight big enough for both Caroline and me. "You know what this means, right?" Caroline interrupted my thoughts. "What?" "Mom's going to expect us to coordinate our outfits for board meetings now." "As long as it's not another emerald dress," I grinned. "Deal." She grabbed her purse. "Ready to go shock Dad with our business proposals?" "Born ready," I echoed her words from the party. As we left the cafe, Amanda called after us. "Try not to cause any more scandals." "No promises," we called back in unison. Because while our revenge saga might be over, our story as sisters was just beginning. And something told me it would be even better than the viral videos suggested. "Ready for this?" Caroline squeezed my hand as we stood outside the boardroom. Through the glass walls, we could see our father addressing the board members. "As ready as I'll ever be," I smoothed my blazer. Navy blue, not emerald green. "You remember your part?" "Please." She rolled her eyes. "I was born for this presentation." Dad's voice carried through the door. "And now I'd like to introduce our newest partners." We walked in together, shoulders back, heads high. The same board members who'd witnessed Dylan's downfall now sat watching us with keen interest. His empty chair stood as a reminder of how quickly fortunes could change. "Good morning," Caroline began, her voice steady. "Today we're presenting our vision for the company's future." I clicked to the first slide. Starting with a complete digital transformation of our client services. The presentation flowed smoothly between us, each picking up where the other left off. When we finished, the room stayed silent for a long moment. "Impressive," Dylan's father spoke first, surprising everyone, particularly the cybersecurity initiatives, though I suppose recent events have shown how necessary those are. "Speaking of recent events," another board member leaned forward, "how do we know you two won't bring more drama to the company?" "Fair question." I met his gaze. "What happened with Dylan was about protecting our family, both personal and professional. Every action we took was to expose genuine threats to this company." "And it worked," Caroline added. "The audit revealed he'd embezzled over $2 million. Our actions saved this company from a much bigger scandal." "By creating a smaller one?" someone muttered. "No," Dad stood. "By showing initiative, resourcefulness, and an unwavering commitment to truth. Exactly the qualities we need in leadership." Mom chose that moment to enter, carrying a stack of folders. The final audit reports, she announced, distributing them, including the recovery plan my daughters developed. The board members flipped through the documents, eyebrows raising at the detailed analysis. This is thorough, Dylan's father admitted. We protect what's ours, I said simply. And we're very good at it, Caroline finished. The vote was unanimous. Later, celebrating in Dad's office, Mom pulled out a familiar envelope. Remember this? She handed it to me. I recognized it immediately. The envelope that had started everything, containing those first screenshots of Dylan's messages. Keep it, Mom said, as a reminder that sometimes the worst moments lead to the best outcomes. Like finding out your sister is actually your best ally? Caroline bumped my shoulder. Or discovering your daughters are smarter than you gave them credit for, Dad added, pouring champagne. Or learning that karma works better with a good strategy and better timing, I grinned. A knock interrupted us. Amanda poked her head in. Sorry to interrupt, but you might want to see this. She held up her phone. Rosalie just posted her tell-all interview. We crowded around the screen, watching Rosalie detail every aspect of Dylan's schemes. The comment section was exploding. Well, Mom sighed, at least we're not the ones creating drama this time. No, Caroline smiled. We're just the ones who started it. And finished it, I added. To new beginnings, Dad raised his glass. And Sister Axe. Caroline clinked her glass against mine. Speaking of Axe, Amanda scrolled through her phone. That video of your anniversary party revenge just hit 10 million views. You're officially viral sensations. Great, I groaned. Just what every corporate executive wants on their resume. Actually, Mom's eyes twinkled. The marketing department wants to discuss your social media presence. Apparently, you've made our family business relevant to millennials. We all laughed, but there was truth there. Everything had changed. Our relationships, our roles, our futures. The shadow I'd lived in had become a spotlight we shared, and the sister I'd envied had become my closest ally. You know what this means? Caroline nudged me. What? Next board meeting, we're definitely wearing matching outfits. As long as they're not emerald green? Everyone finished in unison. Looking around at my family, Mom finally seeing me clearly, Dad trusting us with his legacy, and Caroline standing beside me as an equal, I realized something profound. Sometimes the happy ending isn't about getting revenge or proving yourself. Sometimes it's about discovering that what you wanted all along was right there, waiting for you to be brave enough to claim it. To the Townsend sisters, Amanda raised her glass. To family, Mom and Dad echoed. To us, Caroline whispered, linking her arm through mine. To us, I agreed, knowing that whatever came next, we'd face it together. Because that's what sisters do. Especially sisters who've learned that the best revenge isn't just living well, it's living well together.